philosophically, my job is to help promote you or whatever artist is out there. And I mean, spread the word. That's the biggest thing. That's what public relations does.
Well, hey, y'all, welcome to Come and Pick It. I'm Anthony Bonnette, and today's guest is Bev Moser. Bev, I appreciate you coming on the show so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So tell the audience how we know one another. You're part of the team that kind of helps me navigate the music industry, isn't that right?
I am. I get the pleasure of being your publicist and helping book interviews and do your press releases and help with other things that get your name out there and hopefully get some more listeners for you. So,
Absolutely. And you do that for quite a few people. And I would like to say thank you. You do a fantastic job and you're great to work
oh,
with.
I love what I do. I really do. So, yeah, I have a handful of clients, all different sizes, all different genres, you name it. And I love it. I've been doing it for a long time.
Cool. How long?
I started in the industry. Oh my. I moved to Nashville in 2000, but I was in radio 7 years prior to that. So, gosh, what's that make it now? 24 and 7, 31 years? That's a long time.
Ooh, that's a big number.
That's a long time. I know. I'm like counting on my fingers going, how long? Yeah,
So you began your journey in the music industry anyway as a radio host, right? At US
I did.
92.
Yep, I
And
did.
that's
I
in
started as a fan and then I went to radio.
and that's in Nebraska, US 92 is?
Yep. Norfolk, Nebraska. It's kind of between Lincoln and Omaha. They kind of make a triangle. So it's on the
Cool.
east side of Nebraska. Yeah.
So you were a radio host. What exactly is that job like? I mean, what were you was it a DJ kind of thing?
Yep. It was kind of a crazy story. I started coming to Nashville, going to fanfare back when it was at the fairgrounds, which for those that are familiar with Nashville, now it's CMA Music Fest. But before it was at the fairgrounds, all the artists were actually in the barns of the fairgrounds. So you never knew where you're going to meet an artist. I actually met Brad Paisley when he was just an up and coming artist in a stall in a barn on a hay bale. And I just happened to be walking by and he was eating a pizza. And he's like, "You want a slice?" And I said, "Sure." And I sat down next to him. I had no clue who he was. And a couple of years later, he blew up. So that's, I just was a fan back
Wow.
then. And the local
Hmm.
radio station found out about it, called me up and said, "Hey, would you consider calling in every day when you're there and just giving us like a 10-minute, just real quick, who you met, any autographs, what shows you've been to, who you ran into on the street?" I said, "Oh yeah, I can do that, no problem." So I did for 5 days. And at the end of that, they said, "We want you on the air. You know everything about country music. You know the artist. We think we have a spot for you." And I had a full-time job. I was not looking for another job, but that's right when voice tracking started. So I could go in,
Hmm.
do a whole week show in one evening, go home, do my regular job, take care of the kids, and nobody knew the difference. I loved it. And then our morning
That's
co-host
cool.
fell. She broke her knee. I ended up being a morning co-host for the next several years. She never came back. So it
Ah,
was just one of those things, fell into it and I loved it. But yeah, it was fun. We
well,
had a
she
good time.
fell, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's sad for her, but it kind of worked out for you.
It did work out for me. Yeah, it really did. It opened a lot of doors. And then when I decided to move to Nashville, then I already had friends here. I'd met a lot of people from Nashville. So it worked out really well.
Right. That's pretty cool. That's a cool way to start. That's
It is.
well, I guess there's really no abnormal. People think about the music business as being kind of a there's just a few jobs you can do and they don't realize how many small little specific jobs there are in the world of music.
Absolutely. There's a lot of them. There really are. I mean, even
Mhm.
look at you. You have to have somebody doing your marketing and your publicity and booking and all the different things. There's a lot. I mean, social media, and it changes daily what we need. So, yeah. So there's a
Right.
lot of stuff. Yeah,
So I'm told that you have also have a background in photography. Is that
I
accurate?
do. I do. Another one I fell into when I first moved here. Of course, I had already, like I said, I had met a lot of the managers and different people that used to come to the radio station, and they started calling me. Hey, there's a number one party tonight. There's a CD release party tonight. There's a showcase. Come hang out with us. There's free food, free drinks, whatever. And so I would go hang out with these people at these events, and there was always the same person there at all these events that I kept seeing with a camera, just exactly like I already had. So I just, I had a conversation with him and like, "Hey, why are you here taking pictures every single show? Are you just a big fan?" And he was like, "No, I own a magazine. I'm from Atlanta. And I come up here because somebody's got to take the pictures for these shows so I can write an article about it." And I was just a nice little country girl. And I'm like, "I'm here. I have that same camera. I could just send you the
Hmm.
pictures, save you driving 4 or 5 hours twice a week, whatever." And so, long story short, we exchanged names and numbers. I sent him some of my photos, and he said, "You are very good. I can definitely use you, but I can't really pay you." Typical Nashville. And I wasn't looking for pay. I had
Right.
a job, so
Hmm.
I started shooting, and all of a sudden I had management and publicists and different venues calling me and saying, "We keep seeing your photos published and you're really good. What would you charge to, like be the official photographer for our event?" I had no clue. I talk about baptism by fire. And it's right
Right.
when film and digital were, kind of switching over to the digital market. And
Hmm.
I had to learn very quickly how to switch into the digital world. And I had to figure out how to bill people. I had no idea what it was worth. I really didn't. So
Hmm.
I quickly became friends with other photographers to learn from them. And, it's like, how do you do this? How do you determine what an hour's worth or 300 pictures are worth, whatever? And uh, so I did, and within probably 6 months, I had to choose. You either are a photographer or you're a receptionist at an insurance agent, because I was constantly asking for time off. And I just
Right.
jumped in, and I figure, hey, if I fail, I can always go get another desk job. So for 17
Hmm.
years, I was one of about three or four photographers, and we did every awards show, every red carpet, every album cover. I mean, we did everything. And I
Wow.
still do it. I still do photography. In fact, I've got an event next week for a Hall of Fame awards show that I'm doing. And then this year I actually have to miss one because I'll be on the road for something. But other than that, I really mostly just use it to take pictures of my kids playing football, or it's more for me now than it is a job because I stay
Right.
busy doing everything else. But I still love it. No, so
So that's pretty neat. So what is so for the people out there and for me because I'm not very knowledgeable on any of this. What exactly is PR and like what is it that you do during your day?
oh my gosh, how long is this podcast? You tell you what, you
Well, just
sit
give us
down
one
really
day.
early in the morning and you start going through your emails, and pretty soon you're off way on another tangent because you're booking an interview or you're researching something, or all of a sudden somebody needs a press release right now they forgot to ask you about. Or I mean, it's a lot. I do tour press, so people that are out on tour, I help promote those shows.
Hmm.
We write all the press releases for new music, new books, new whatever they're doing. Um, and we book a lot of interviews. So it can be interviews for artists, it can be interviews for events. whatever you've got going on, that's, we do a lot of that. And when you have multiple clients, it's a constant. You never know. You might wake up thinking, okay, I get up and do this and this and this, and you don't even touch them until 6 o'clock at night because everything else changes. So you have to be very flexible,
Right.
but it's fun, and then you get to go out to shows and you get to, help your artist and be, watch them be successful. That's the best part, is watching your work come to fruition. So,
So it sounds like you work hand in hand with kind of a marketing thing of a
mhm.
marketer kind of person. So is that
Yeah,
true? Is that kind of how it shakes out?
it is. A lot of people confuse marketing and promotion with what a publicist does. They're very, very similar.
Right.
Um, like advertising marketing, we don't get into that at all, really. I mean, maybe just itty bit, because they're so parallel that
Hmm.
sometimes we have to. But for the most part, our part of it is solely focused on whatever project that we're working on. But it's very, very similar. I still have to make graphics from time to time, and
Right.
there are things that are very intertwined with it.
Yeah, marketing. It seems like it's kind of a part of, definitely a part of what you do, like visual kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
I guess so. So who's responsible for kind of the theme of? So there's a tour coming up. Who decides like this is going to be the X tour and brands it? And who is that? Something you do? The marketer does, or are you more the execution side?
Um, I'm more of the execution, but a lot of times artists will rely on my input. So we'll talk
Hmm.
about it. And especially those that I manage. I manage a couple artists. So then I'm wearing double hats. And, so we
Hmm.
try and do that. A lot of times it's the artist that comes up with it. And because they know what their music is, they know what words, they want to use to describe their tour. But a lot of times it's a team effort. But a lot of artists don't have a big team. A lot of times it's me and them, or maybe one other person, maybe a booking agent. So then we all wear a lot of hats, and we just,
Right.
everybody does it in conjunction, and you figure it out.
Right, because all those little jobs still need to be done, even if even if
Absolutely.
there's no person assigned to it.
Yep, absolutely. I
So
mean, somebody has to.
yeah, are there any particular artists when you look out into the, whether your clients or not, that are just really nailing the visual asset game?
Oh my gosh, there's a ton of them. Yeah, there's a ton of them. Um, I mean, I can just give you one example off the top of my head. Not my client. I just went to a Jelly Roll concert, and I'm telling you, he blows it away. He has
Really?
pyro, he has video, he has stuff going on behind him at all times, and big screens all over. Um,
Mm.
it's very impressive. He also has a very big budget. You know, normal artist
Right.
does not, and you're depending on doing graphics through, whether it's a Photoshop or Canva or some other Adobe, something like that. Um, but visuals help everything. It's just the world we live in right now. So you
Definitely.
have to have it. It captures people's attention, especially on social media and on your website and everything else that you're doing. So yeah, there's a long list of things that they don't tell you you have to learn when you jump into this.
Well, I think a big part of it, just from my perspective, is you can't be afraid of it because, like I say, there's all these little things that have to be done, and
Hmm.
someone needs to at least attempt to fill in those blanks. There's such a lot of
Absolutely.
little blanks, and
Yep.
and you have to remember that some at people weren't born knowing how to do those things, and maybe you'll mess them up, but you'll get them right the next time, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's the key, is it's a lot of trial and error. And you know as well as I do in this industry, what works today may or may not work tomorrow. So things change, and what people want and how they're doing it, and whether, I mean, we never had streaming a few years ago, and now everything is streaming. So it's definitely you learn to go with the flow in this business and just keep
Right.
learning stuff and trying to be a step ahead of somebody else. And so it's it can be challenging. There's some days you wonder why the heck you're doing it, and there's other days that you just sit and smile and you're like, this is why I do it, you know. So
Right.
it's very rewarding.
Yeah, it is from my perspective too. It can get a lot of days on non-show days, especially when all the stuff
Mhm.
is going on, and all the getting ready and the prep and all that. It can be obnoxious. It can be, and I can think, what am I even doing? This is no fun. But on show days, especially on the ones when everything goes great,
Right?
it's definitely worth it. You're right.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, it's the truth. Or if you have a big, if you're working on a big project and you get the interview of a lifetime, you get whatever that you've been hoping to get on, it makes it all worth it.
Right.
So it's those things.
Definitely.
Or you have a fan come up to you that says they saw you on XYZ or whatever, and you're like, oh, people are watching it. All of this makes sense now, and it moves needles for you, and it helps you book another show. It
Right.
helps you
Hmm.
whatever, that's just it. There's
Yeah,
so many aspects to it. So,
for sure. So tell me, so your job is multifaceted, let's say, but there's also a pretty specific thing that a music publicist does. Can you give me exactly what that would be philosophically?
philosophically, my job is to help promote you or whatever artist is out there. And I mean, spread the word. That's the biggest thing. That's what public relations does is we bring
Okay.
awareness to whatever project we're working on, whether it be music or otherwise. So that's the biggest thing that we do. Hmm.
And that's via any channels that you can, so radio, TV,
Yep.
streaming, whatever you could do.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
okay.
Especially now, podcasts are huge. So we do a lot of
Right.
podcast booking interviews for podcasts, and there's new ones popping up all the time. We do live in person. We do streaming like we're doing today. We do email question and answers. We do radio, newspaper, magazines. I mean, any type of outlet is considered media. And it's our job to get those interviews or coverage. Sometimes they just take the coverage off of the press release that we write. So there's lots of different avenues to go down. Some of them are 5 minutes long, like you call into a radio station, 5 minute interview. You got to tell your whole story, 5 minutes. Other times, you something like this, you get an hour and you have a lot of time to really dig deep. So
Right.
there's a lot of, even though it's the same thing, you're booking an interview, well, there's a lot of pieces to that little puzzle to figure out ahead of time on what you're going to talk about, how long do you have, what are you really talking about, and what's going to
Hmm.
be the best way to sell it. It's yeah, there's a lot.
I can see that. I can see it, and especially there's all that overlap into marketing and into everything else, so into being an agent, and like there's all that overlap. So
Hmm.
so at what point or at what stage in a career do you think it's important that an artist brings on a publicist?
That's a very good question, actually, because I get people that do reach out to me often that they're not ready. Um, Especially in today's society, streaming numbers and social numbers mean a lot to a lot of people. So, especially outlets. So, if I had a new artist that came to me and they had less than 5,000 streaming or media, and it doesn't have to be on all of them. It can be maybe just their Facebook numbers are high, but maybe there's maybe Spotify or Apple. Um, if they don't even have that, they're not ready yet. They really need to have that as a baseline and say, okay, I've got at least 5,000 followers that are active, they're organic, and they're going to be there for me. They've got my back. because I can't pitch that to a radio station or a TV or anybody and say, hey, I've got this great new artist. Their voice is great. The song is amazing. Nobody's going to know about it. So we have to have kind of a bottom. Um, some people come and they really just don't have the talent. They're just not there yet. And that's a hard one to tell somebody is you need to go back. You need to practice more. You need to, hone your skills.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a million people that are very good. There's people that should have a publicist that don't. They're trying to do it all
Right.
themselves and they're not doing a good job at it. So there's a fine line in between those two. But we do get asked a lot to do it, and people don't understand the logistics of it. They think we're miracle workers, and we are not. We're busting our butt. We're competing with how many artists are out there now? I mean, there are new ones popping up every
Right.
single day. So it's
Good
hard.
grief.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. But, you get good artists, get people that sing well, that they do great videos. You do amazing videos. I love your videos. And,
That's Holly that does all that.
You're working. Well, Holly, you have great videos. But it takes all of that, and it takes, like you said, it either takes a team or it takes somebody that's really, really good at that part of it for me to do my job really well.
Mhm.
Because without it, and they have to be on time. They have to, if I say I need something 6 to 8 weeks out, there's a reason for it. And there's some people that they think, oh, I can give it to you next week. You can get me in Rolling Stone. Well, that's not going to happen, so there's just a lot of things that you have to really educate a lot of people on and train them that this is how it works. If you want to be a success, you got to follow certain rules. We can break a few here and there, but most of the time there's a lot of things you just have to be on target for. So
Right. So so when you're planning that, when you've got that 8-week ramp up, which I know that's what we do. We have 8 weeks when you're before. So what happens during that 8 weeks? It's a mystery to me.
Okay, well, I'll walk you through it so you know. So when we usually ask that, we have, and you know how this works. I know Holly knows how this works. We don't just plug everything into one file and it's out there. We have to set up all of the information on, okay, is this a love song? Is this a dance song? Is this, what kind of music are we pushing? So we know what media outlets to send it to, because we don't send it to the same ones every single time. So first we have to determine where's it going to go. So we have to go in and we have to pull through our database and say, okay, we need all the outlets that we want to send this to. And then we go on the other side over here and we're like, okay, we need music reviewers. Who can we get that will do the reviewers? And reviewers are falling off the face of the earth faster than you can imagine. They don't do them like they used to. There used to be hundreds of them. Now, if you want to review, you can go to Spotify. You can go to, people can just do it themselves. So it's changed a lot, but we still send out probably 150 of them for every song. And some get picked up, some don't. It just depends. And then after we do all of that, then we start writing the press release, because we want to get that 8-week stuff out in front of people ahead of time and say, hey, we got some new music coming. Do you have a spot for it? Can you get it on your, in the magazine or in the newspaper or wherever they're going to go? And then with the press release, that's more for, hey, it's live, or it's the pre-save or whatever. But we have to write it. So it takes us time to get all of our stuff together, to get quotes from people, to get the artwork, the video, if there's a video, all those pieces have to come together. And then we push it out, on release day, whatever, if we're going to do it as a pre-release or just release, however we're going to do it. There's no one way to do it. So we set up all that. And then if it's going to radio, then you got to deal with all that stuff. So there's a lot of elements in there. And if an artist is touring, you have to constantly be updating their tour schedule, because if you're going to put it in the press release, it's got to be current. So there's a lot of things that go on in the background. It's not just oh, hey, we got this, let's shoot it out tomorrow kind of thing. So those are not fun to do. When those come in, it's not fun, because you spend all day just setting something up. So
is it kind of a scaled thing? So if somebody doing at different stages of a career, would there be significantly more for an artist that's doing really well as opposed to somebody that's just starting out?
Believe it or not, it's the opposite. An
Hmm.
established artist that has a very good career and a big following and they're out there, it's actually easier because most of the outlets come to you or come to me. Um, Whereas a newer artist that's less known, we have to go find those outlets. So, your billboards, your Rolling Stones, your American songwriters, they're going to come for the artists that they know are good quality and they have something to talk about versus are they going to come to somebody that they don't know anything about? No, not yet, but they'll keep an eye on them, so we can pitch it to them and say, hey,
Right.
keep your eyes on this person. Things are going to start happening. So we can start selling them on it. But a bigger artist, they're actually easier, other than that they're a lot more busy. So sometimes it's harder to get
Right.
stuff from them because they're so busy, but they have more people on their team. So
Hmm.
there's there's a lot of elements,
Yeah, I can see
So
that.
yeah, yeah.
So what do artists do to stand in their own way? What things are they screwing up, and what do you wish they would focus on instead, from your perspective?
As a general rule, and I'm not saying this is every artist, but artists don't think logistically, like they don't do spreadsheets. They don't think methodically
I
that they have to do things in order. Yeah, see, you're nodding, Um, they just are not that
don't
person.
do.
I'm that person. I know what comes first, second, third, how you have to do it in what order. They don't. They're more focused on, and especially female artists, when's their nail appointment? When's their hair appointment? Are they doing a video? Do they need clothes? You don't think about stuff like that. The
Mm.
females do. Uh, so there's a very big difference in that part of it where you have to constantly be on them and going, hey, I know you don't have to do anything but go to the gym today, but I got to submit X, Y, and Z today, so I really need you to send me this. And so those are the biggest factors. But once you get to know someone's personality, like with you guys, I never have to worry. I know it's going to come in my inbox probably before I ask for it. But there's other ones I have to stay on them until the last second and go, I still don't have your artwork. Your press release comes out tomorrow and I still don't have it. And, I can't make it for you. So, I mean, I could, but I'm not gonna.
Well, I'd like to take full credit for everything you get in your inbox. I work really hard on that stuff, and
Yeah, I see your nose growing. I know who does that back work. She gets all the credit.
she really does.
She does a
So,
great
as
job.
far as I've been thinking about my own career, and I kind of brought it up earlier, wondering who was kind of responsible for the theme of an artist, and so how important is it in your mind for an artist to have a clear and compelling story?
The story does need to be compelling. It does, because that's what's going to draw the interest of not only the fans, but it's also going to draw the interest to the booking agents that you want to play shows for. So, and the venues and, fairs and festivals and benefits, all the different kind of things that an artist might go play music at. So you do need to have that because they're going to call and say, hey, I need someone that does classic country. They do, slow dance music. They want hip hop. They want whatever kind of, whatever it is. So they don't just look at the kind of music, but they want the personality and they want to know they're going to sell tickets and they want to know that they're going to behave and not do things in the venue that, don't represent that venue. So there's a lot of things that go hand in hand. So you would never want to put a classic country artist, somebody that just plays on the Opry all the time, in a club that is, you know, a high rowdy, young kids just drinking beer kind of place. So there's a lot of things that you have to try and think about and say, okay, what's your direction going to be? How are you going to dress? You don't have to dress the same thing every day, but in general, what are you doing? How,
Right.
what are your morals? There's a lot of things you have to look out for all
Yeah.
of those. So, and some may change
So
especially if an
so you
artist comes to me as a young kid.
right. Hmm. So you think it's pretty important to kind of pick a lane more or less and be the thing you are and not try to be other things and just kind of stay in your area,
To some
especially
extent,
if you've yeah,
yeah.
right,
I
especially if
mean,
you've had any success and kind of stay in that area.
correct. Yeah, you don't want to venture too far out of it. It's okay. I
Right.
mean, we know that there's a lot of country songs that maybe have a chorus or something that has rap music in it. That's acceptable
Hmm.
now. It wasn't when it first came out. People
Yeah, it
hated it.
is.
They're like, don't do that. Now it's common. I mean, people do it a lot.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that you can cross over, but in general, if you decide you want to be a classic country artist, you're going to stay in that vein because that's where your fan base is. If you want to be
Right.
a modern country or if you want to be a rock or whatever, you pretty much stay where you are because then it confuses radio, especially. And if
Hmm.
you are going for radio, radio stations, there's classic country, there's Walter, there's soft rock, hard rock, classical, all the different kinds. Well,
Hmm.
chances of you getting played on all those kinds of radio stations is not as easy because your radio promoter may or may not have the contacts to reach out to them and pitch you to them. So there's just
Hmm.
lots, I mean, I have artists that I have Christian artists, I have rock artists, but my main focus is country. I don't have the relationships with the Christian or those rock artists like I do the country venues and the radio
Right.
stations and magazines. So it's easy for me to text one of them. I work with them all the time and say, "Hey, I got a new client. Will you take a listen?" I may not have that relationship with some of the other ones. I have their email address. I can contact them, but I might not have the relationship. And this industry
Right.
is built on relationships. It's who you know,
Oh, definitely.
who you've worked with, who they're comfortable with. They trust you. And if you come to them and say, I just signed a new artist, I really think you're going to like them, they're going to take your word for it. You go to someone that
Yeah,
doesn't know
absolutely.
you, they may not. So, I've worked between the radio, the photography. I worked on the media side for a while doing interviews, and now on this side of it. So I kind of have a better understanding of what each of them needs. And that's a big advantage for me because now I can, weed them out a little bit easier. It's like, I know what they want. They're not going to listen to this person, but
Right.
they will the other one. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's why the relationship is important because when you know them, you know what they like, you know what they're
Yep.
looking for. So
Yep.
that's why you're valuable to people like me for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does make a big difference. The networking is huge. And, if you're putting together a
Hmm.
new album and if you want to collaborate, let's just say you want to collaborate with a Vince Gill. Well, I can call Vince and say, hey, I've got this artist who I think would be great. He's looking for a collaborator. There's things like
Hmm.
that those things mean the world to people. And if you've worked around them or with them, they know you're a good person. They're probably more apt to say, I'll give it a listen. Let me see. I might be able to do it. So being in
Right.
the industry as long as I have, it makes a big difference for a lot of people because I can call them up or I know all the other publicists. I know all the labels. I know all the
Right.
managers and not everybody gets that. So it's been
Yeah,
I've
for
worked with
sure.
them on different sides of the track. So I kind of know who's doing what and what they need and how they work. So,
Right.
yep.
So how do you manage your clients'
I told
expectations? You
you.
spoke a little bit earlier. How do you how do you manage the expectations? Because all when I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, okay, then this is going to be awesome. Like we're going straight to the top. So when clients want miracles or immediate results, how do you kind of manage that a little bit?
It's not always easy. Um, some people really do. have big heads and they think that they are going to go straight to the top. One in how many million do, especially now
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, you get those overnight successes. Um, but it's very slim. So you really have to educate these people and just let them know that it's just not how the industry works. You can't buy your way to the top. I mean, maybe one in a million can buy their way to the top. They know the right people to do it and they're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest of us, it's a hard day every day on both sides of the fence. For you, for me, we do it together. We just keep at it. And I always tell everybody that I work with that no doesn't mean no. No means not right now. So if they say no
Mm-hmm.
to this one, especially a new artist, if an outlet says I can't do it this time, it doesn't mean they don't like the music. Maybe it means that they everything is full right now. So you just can't be
Mm-hmm.
disheartened by it and you cannot compare yourself to other artists because you don't know what their journey is, you don't know what their goals are, you don't know, what's coming next from them. There's so many things. So especially my young artists, I always tell them, do not compare yourself to XYZ because their journey is totally
Right.
different than yours and maybe their goals are different. Maybe they had totally different upbringing, whatever it might be. You don't know what their management team is, you don't know what
Mm-hmm.
their financial situation is. Maybe they got a rich uncle that died and they got millions of dollars that they can waste on buying out a bunch of stuff and you don't. So there's just a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different things. So, yeah, yeah, we have to have
Yeah.
hard conversations. Yeah, especially with new artists and let them know that, they say Nashville's a 10-year town. So nothing's
Right.
going to happen for most people overnight. A few,
And what
it
is it
will.
they say about comparison is the thief of joy? I think is what the saying I've heard, and I like that. It's really
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, it is. It
So,
is.
what advice do you give to artists, new artists, or even old artists on how to organically grow and engage their audience more and be more present in what is it called, grassroots, to get a
Yeah.
grassroots kind of audience
Yeah.
working?
It it's a daily grind, especially I mean, with social media has its good points and its bad points. The good points are you really can interact with your fans from all over the world. It's not just who's in your backyard now. Whereas that's how it used to be. You had to get the ones in your hometown to love you. You play the bars, you play whatever they have,
Hmm.
get that hometown following. Well, then their cousin comes to visit and they come and see with your hometown people and they take it back home and go, "Oh my gosh, I just saw this guy in concert. He's blown me away. You got to listen to his music." So it used to be you had to really push the pavement to get followers. Well, now social media, you can get them a lot easier, but it takes interaction and being authentic with them and being personal and responding to their stuff that when I don't I don't tell everybody answer every single comment that they message you through messenger or whatever your DMs because you
Hmm.
get a lot of stuff that's not worth it. But if they post something on your page or whatever, it takes 2 seconds to like it and maybe say thank you. And if you get an
Hmm.
artist interview, post the social link and say, "Hey, I did this great interview with XYZ radio station or newspaper," and show them some love back because those people that work at the
Right.
stations are your fans as well. So it's not just, those people, because you never know. That radio station might be the one hosting your next concert. They may be the one introducing you. You never know how that's going to work
Right.
out. So you really need to be gracious to everybody and thank them for their time because they could be listening to anybody else out there. There's a million people to pick from.
Right. Especially
Yep,
now, for sure. Good grief.
especially now. Yeah.
So, from your vantage point, what separates acts that make it, quote, make it, And the ones that kind of get stuck, I don't want to say stuck, because you can make a living making music
Right.
locally or regionally. So, but what separates those from the ones that make it all the way to the top, to the 1%?
Luck, number one. I mean, right place, right time. It goes to networking. There is no one magic answer to this. Um, but
Right.
those that do seem to make it overnight, that just show up out of nowhere, um, I feel like they they connected with somebody somewhere. So especially like the TikTok people, they came up with something, whether it's a jingle or whatever it is, they're going to get somebody's attention. And chances are that's probably all they're going to ever get. They can come in and they can
Hmm.
be signed by a label, but how many of them do you know that are still around? Not very many. There's going to be a
Right.
couple, but um, the longevity is burn that candle slow and long, not
Mm.
boom. You don't be a flash in the pan because you're going to disappear as quickly as you appeared. But
Right.
there are those that do, you know, money talks. If you got lots of money to put towards advertising, a lot of money to put towards, selling that music and doing stuff, that's a big
Hmm.
factor. I mean, when you have that kind of money and you can hire a videographer to follow you throughout your whole tour and they're taking video for you for content, that makes a big difference. But most people can't afford that.
Mm.
So
Right.
what people see in reality are usually two entirely different things. That's why artists want a tour bus because it makes them look like they're huge,
Hmm.
whether they are or not. And
Right.
there's just lots of things that are similar to that, that it's all whatever you want your fans to believe. It's smoke and mirrors a lot of times.
Right.
You may not be
Hmm.
what they really think you are. So I think social media has also broken that barrier on the opposite side because a lot of artists show I don't wear makeup today and this is what I do on my day off
Right.
and I've got three screaming kids and barking dogs and this and that. I'm not the person you see on stage. So social media has
Right.
opened that door more, because used to be people only saw the artist on stage. There was no way to reach out
Right.
to them unless you waited out by the buzz.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed on that. But I think just being nice to everybody
Mhm.
and being authentic, that's a big thing.
Yeah, I think about one. I'm a big fan of bluegrass music, and Rhonda Vincent is one of our favorites, and she's a beautiful lady. And she does on her social media, she does it
Oh,
with no makeup and
oh
like
yeah,
and not dressed
yeah,
up at all, like dressed
yeah.
dressed down.
I know, I know. Yeah,
But
she's a good
she's as
friend of mine.
charming
Yeah.
as she can be. Oh, is she?
Oh, she. Oh
Uh,
yeah. I know Rhonda really well. She's as authentic as they come, and
yeah,
she
she
is not
is.
afraid to go online without her wig on that she wears on stage. Her hair is about this short,
That's
but on stage it's as long as mine. And mine's real, by the
right.
way. So, um, but yeah, she's not afraid. It doesn't bother her at
She's
all
not.
to do no makeup and just to be her true self and show people what life is on her end when she's not on stage. And I think that's another way for
Right.
her to connect. People love that. So if you're comfortable doing it, do it. If you're not, then don't because
Yeah.
it's going to show. So you still have to find your lane of where you're comfortable. You know. So
Yeah, I think that's true. Authenticity, I think, is a big thing, though. There are a whole group of people that probably shouldn't be authentic because they're not very nice people, or maybe
correct.
they're just not very developed people. Young people generally. I'm speaking for myself. When I was young, I wrote songs and played music, but I didn't really have anything to say. It wasn't until I was in my late 30s or even early 40s that I really started, my songs really started representing something authentic, something that was really me.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
authentic, you can be authentically uninteresting too.
Correct. Yeah, and some people don't want to know some of the other things that you do. They want to believe that you do
Yeah, that's
only the
true
right
too.
things. So there's a fine line to cross
Hmm.
on that. It I can't tell everybody, you have to be pure and innocent and only do the good stuff. If it's what you do, it's what you do because people are going to find out,
Right.
especially with socials. And
Yeah.
so you have to reel them in a little bit, but you also have to let them be who they're going to be. Um, so
Hmm.
it all comes out in the wash, is what my mom used to always say. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to.
Hmm. Yeah. So do you
Yeah,
think that authenticity is the thing that makes people stand out the most as far as to media outlets and things like that?
I do. I think those that are more true to themselves and show who they really are on or off camera, and they're the same person, I think draws more fans to them than someone that comes out and they're all glittery and happy and they just look like
Hmm.
they're, made for $1 million. And then they walk back to the dressing room, take the wig and the clothes off and fake nails and whatever. And they walk out and they've got beers in their hand and a cigarette and they're not anything like what they just were on stage. I think the authentic people, if you are who you are, they're going to love you a lot more within reason. There's that
Hmm.
fine line. But yeah. And it
Right.
depends on
Yeah,
where you're showing.
that's why I thought it was so neat. Rhonda Vincent was so neat because there's such a dichotomy there between
Yeah.
who she is on stage and I mean, but she's actually exactly the same person, personality
Yeah.
wise and all that. She
Yeah.
comes across as exactly that, but there's a lot fewer rhinestones on her socials.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. She shows herself out fishing. She shows herself, like
Right.
you said, no wig, no makeup, no nothing. And, you
Yeah.
know, people, they connect with that. So why not?
Definitely.
If you're comfortable with it, I would not probably be as comfortable with it, but as I get older, I'm more comfortable. I used to not leave the house without my hair and makeup done. Now I'm like,
Really?
yeah, it's fine. We can run to Kroger. I don't care. But I never used to be that way. Like, no, I don't want anybody to see me that I might run into somebody I know. So I don't care.
Yeah, you
Love
run
me or
into
leave me.
some pretty cool people. You might run
I
into
do.
Brad Paisley at the store without your makeup on.
Yep, I know. I know. I ran into Tracy Lawrence in the produce department a few years ago, and I literally
Cool.
just got off the boat. So my hair, I mean, literally, I had no makeup on. I had my swimsuit on under a wet t-shirt, and we ran in. We wanted some sweet corn. We were going to go back out to the campsite, and he was there looking like he just got done mowing the yard. And at first, of course, you don't you're kind of focused on yourself at that point. You're like, I want to get in and get out. And he was kind of
Hmm.
doing the same thing. And we both just happened to be right there. And I looked up, I'm like, Tracy Lawrence, what are you doing here? And he's like, don't tell anybody it's me. He's like, I just ran in here. We need whatever. So we've joked about that before.
Hmm.
That we both were like, hey, we both look like crap right now, but this is what it is. So, but yeah, you just don't know,
Hmm.
when you're going to, but it's life. We're all real. So why not? But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So are there any elements that so when it comes to that authenticity, that's definitely the a big one. So what other things should an artist not overlook when it comes to how to present yourself into the world from a publicity and marketing kind of perspective?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of things that most people you would think take naturally, being on time, keeping your
Mhm.
commitments. Those kind of things are critical. You have someone that constantly, it takes us a lot of work to set up an interview. There's usually 3, 4 emails that go back and forth going, hey, are you available on this date and time? And here's the confirmation and all the different things. So keeping your commitments when you make them. If you're one of those people that constantly cancels an interview or an appointment, whatever, it shows. And that shows who you really are. And your fans will see it and the media outlets will see it. So those are kind of some things that you need to bring to the table. And some of them are learned, some of them
Mm-hmm.
you have to train them. And, but those are some things that you really want to come through, and a stage presence.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be
Mm.
authentic to your fans when you're on stage. So if you come out and it's your you want the vision for them to be you in a cowboy hat and Wrangler jeans and boots, but you never really wear that ever, that's not authentic. That's a costume, you know, and if that's your thing,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Like a drag queen, that's,
Right.
you know, they come
Mm-hmm.
out all ready to go, but in real life, they're not sitting
Yeah.
on their couch watching TV dressed like that. So you find that happy medium of this is my persona for stage, this is my persona in real life. Some people want it to be two different things, other
Mm-hmm.
people want it right down the line. So as long as you're authentic about it and people know where you're coming from, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you have to be able
Okay.
to present it both ways, because guarantee you the public will see you both ways. And if you don't, they'll
Right.
see right through you. So, yeah. And the
Okay.
public is very judgmental. We all know that. Everybody has an opinion, and they're not afraid to post it online or say
Mm.
it out loud. So,
So do those things. So for somebody who's starting out who doesn't have the budget for a publicist, what should they be doing? Where should they focus all their effort? Should it be like streaming? Should they do a lot of should they super focus on socials?
socials is probably number one. You get that social fan following. Um, and really focus on tightening up your writing skills and putting out new music because you want to
So
get your streaming
writing.
numbers up.
So do you mean write songwriting, or do you mean like writing copy? Because I know writing copy is some of what you do.
Right. No, songwriting. So you want to,
Okay.
before you get a publicist, yeah, you want to have your fan base. So you start with social medias and you start with, most, especially in Nashville, I'm assuming it's the same in Texas, but most artists start singing in bars, dance clubs, places like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for them to get to know you better, you have to have good content on socials. You have to be able to interact with them because you want them to follow you to the next one. So, those things need to come first. And just make sure you're working on your vocals and your voice and you're sounding good. Because I get some people that just
Mm-hmm.
they're not ready. They're not. They may think they
Right.
look great with a hairbrush in the mirror, but they're really not ready for that. So, I look at each one individually and I'm very frank
Mm.
with them and let them know that, hey, this part of you needs to grow and I'll help you if that's what
Right.
you want to do. Um, but I can't tell you how many people come to me on a regular basis and they're like, hey, I would like to do a press release. How much do what's your cost? Well, when they find out, they think, they about fall over because it's not cheap. It takes a lot to do what we do. And I'm like, if you're not ready, don't bust your boat. Don't go broke to hire me. Go out and get more gigs first. Sell more
Right.
music, do whatever you have to do. But I don't want to go to sleep at night knowing that you can't pay your bills because you think you need me. I'm not going to be the end all to your
Mm-hmm.
career. You have to help yourself before I can help you. So
Right.
again, there's lots of tough communication and conversations with people that just they're not ready yet, and there's some
Right.
people that are ready that don't have a publicist or a team around them, whether it be management, me, whatever. They should have because they're trying to do it all themselves and they're
Right.
spreading themselves way too thin and they're not going to see movement
Mm-hmm.
because they can't put the effort into everything. It's just too much. So it's just a vicious
Right.
cycle, one way or another.
When it comes to the becoming who you're going to be, I heard a really neat saying about being an artist and it was, I can't even remember who said it, but he said, sit down and imagine who it is that you want to be as far as your stage presence and your presentation, and then just go be that. It's really easy to just kind of go play music and or do social stuff, but you have to the amount of time you spend visualizing and trying to imagine what you want to be like, because that focuses you. When you open your eyes from that little meditation,
Yep.
you're focused, and you know what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, graduating from high school and going to college. You think you know that you're going to major
Mm.
in this and major that. You may or you may not. And you may change it four times. I mean, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
I've changed my career, even though it's all
Right.
been in the music industry. I've done different things. So you grow as you get older and you mature. And so, you do have to focus and say, I want to be a recording artist or a songwriter or an author or whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
be. But you also have to do it from where you're at the moment. So it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
combination, I think, of going, okay, I'm
Right.
only able to do XYZ right now, but in 2 years, I want to be able to do more. This is my
Mm-hmm.
big goal. And, so for right now, I'm happy playing these venues, but my ultimate goal is I want stadiums or I want an award
Right.
show or whatever it is. So I think it goes in
Mm-hmm.
phases, but having that big picture
Yeah, that
definitely
sounds right.
makes a difference. Yep.
And usually, like when you sit down to imagine yourself, usually you're not going to be way off. So if you sit down and try to figure out like your college major, so
Mm,
generally it's not going to be, you're not going to start off in accounting and end up in I don't know, art. Well, I guess that does
right,
happen sometimes,
right,
but usually you'll
right.
be pretty close because you know kind of what you're good at, and
Sure.
so usually you'll hit it pretty close, and you can just make a little small adjustment.
Yep. No, I agree. I think you're right.
So, what are some of the common mistakes you've seen artists make when they handle their own PR, when they try to?
Graphics number one. If you're not a graphic artist, don't try and do graphics. My biggest complaint to every new artist is don't make your graphics on your phone because they're low res. And I can't do it.
Hmm.
Media outlets and everything, nobody can use those. So that's my biggest complaint to everybody is you have to know what you need to know. And if I tell you you need a high resolution picture, well then find out what that means, do your homework and figure out what does high res mean. Um, but that's the number one mistake. And number two is maybe trying to over push yourself to people. Nobody wants to have you shoved down their throat. So
Right.
there's one thing to promote yourself, but you need to know how to do it and when and who and where. And one of my things I always tell people is know your place on the totem pole. If you're a new artist, you're not a Brad Paisley. You're not Jelly Roll. You're not
Hmm.
going to get the same perks. You're not going to get all that stuff. You need to work yourself up. You need to climb up it. So find out what it is to get you to the next level and work hard to get there. And, let's do it together. I can help you do it, but don't expect to get the same things that they're getting because it's not going to happen. And then you're just going to get disappointed and then you're
Right.
going to get mad at me or you're going to quit, one or the other. And,
Hmm.
we see that all the time. Or people will come into town and yeah, they're great on Broadway. They have a full house every night because everybody's drinking beer and listening to music. But that doesn't mean they're going to get an Opry debut. They
Hmm.
they sing covers every night. They don't have original music. So expectations and just knowing your place, that's a big one. And know how to do artwork.
Right. Yeah, the artwork thing.
Yeah.
So, do you think in my mind there are kind of two things that are competing. You have to be ambitious. You have to want to push forward and upward, but you also have to kind of be authentic and sort of content with where you're at right now. So how do you balance those two?
It is a hard balance. I mean, it's I think it's kind of like sports. You know, you start out on the freshman team, you move up to JV, and then you get into varsity.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to
Yeah.
look at the industry the same way. You just have to know that
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable where I'm at now because I know this is where I'm at. But my goal is I want
Mm-hmm.
to start next year at this level. And then you move up and you just give yourself a plan and a time frame. And, you know, sometimes you get lucky and you get to jump, you get to skip home or, you know, go past go,
Right.
whatever. But most of the time you don't. Usually it's one step forward, two steps back, and you have to start over
Mm-hmm.
because something didn't work, whatever it is. I mean, I had an
Right.
artist release new music a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, ended up with COVID on release day,
Oh,
and then had
wow.
a hospitalization from something else. So that no interviews could be done, no promotion other than what I could do just to pitch stuff. So all that hard
Yeah.
work to get that single out, it was released, the press release went out, it's up on all the digital platforms, and there's nowhere to promote it because they're sick. They can't do it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And you know as well as I do,
Wow.
that window is small. And if you're not on it,
Yeah.
you miss the boat. So those things happen, and you
It's
have to
crazy.
accept that there's going to be stuff like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's life. And you do the best with it, what you can, and you just keep doing the same. You know, next time, hopefully, we get a better shot at it. But for whatever
Right.
reason, things happen like that. And it's very disappointing. It's hard for everybody because none of us are successful then. But you just keep looking. You know, most songs, it's an 8 to 16 week window. So hopefully we'll be able to pick up
Right.
some momentum on it. But, and it makes a good story that they were sick for 3 weeks. You know, they'll get a little sympathy play
Yeah.
off of it, but it sure
Yeah,
messed
you
up the
think so?
schedule.
Yeah. I bet they
Yeah.
do. I bet it does fine.
I think it will. I keep telling them that just be patient, you know, get yourself better.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. So, but the hard side of that is so many outlets are booked 6 to 8 weeks ahead. So if we already had them
Right.
booked, chances are I'm not going to get them back on that outlet because that
Yeah.
spot's been taken. So
Mm.
there's always a little setback, but we'll get them on next time and they'll do something else. So we'll be good. So.
So you mentioned relationships and networking. I was wondering about artist networking. Like, what kind of networking should I be doing? And are there conferences or are there showcases? Or what kind of things should somebody like me, I wouldn't call me an up and comer. I'm a little bit long in the tooth for that. But if I
You're
wanted to
seasoned.
network in that direction, how would I
Yeah,
do
you're a
it?
seasoned artist. I mean,
There you go.
it's all about who you work with every day because you never know who you're going to run into, and treat everybody like a potential new fan because whether it's the
Mm,
person behind the bar, whether it's the person at the door taking tickets, whatever they are, um, you know, maybe it's your waitress in the restaurant. You don't know what their real job
mhm,
is. Maybe it's just a night job or whatever. So, networking in general and attending other people's events, that's huge. You know, if other people have shows, if other people are doing showcases, whatever it might be, support
mhm.
other artists as well because their management's there, their booking agents there, whatever other people on their team are probably going to be there. And they may just, you know, they may say, I heard your song on the radio. And then all of a sudden it sparks interest. And now you're collaborating with that artist. So there's lots of ways to
Right.
network. You just never know what door is going to open. So that in itself is a big, you know, just treat everybody like they're a potential stepping stone. I know it doesn't sound like a nice
Mhm.
thing, nice term, but it
Well,
really
it kind of
is.
is, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
It's attaching value to people just based on them being another person.
Absolutely. Yeah. I went to a neighborhood picnic last year, right after I moved into my house, and just visiting with different people at the picnic, and one of them happened to be an artist. What are the chances of somebody else in my neighborhood being an artist? And so you don't know. You don't know till you start a conversation with somebody. So it's just always keeping your ears open and your eyes open, and being yourself. And you just don't know. Maybe they're going to be a sponsor. Maybe they've got money and they want to help you. So nobody knows till you just start talking to other people and showing up at places. If you just stay home all the time and don't meet people, you're not going to go anywhere, because that's the key to the music business. Is you've got to meet people and let them know what you're doing and what your goals are, what you're doing next, what your plan is. There's just a lot to it.
So what if someone wanted to be the next Bev Moser? What would you kind of give them the same advice?
Oh man. No,
or would you say don't do it?
But no, no, I was just kidding. I absolutely love what I get to do. I really do. I say it all the time. I love my job. If they want to do what I'm doing, you have to realize you're always on call 24/7, because my phone could ring at any time. Somebody needs something, something's wrong, they missed something. I had somebody miss an interview today, and they called in late. They still got to do the interview, but they had to call me and say, hey, I was late, but we still did it. Hope it's okay. Maybe they completely forgot it, and I've got the outlet calling me going, hey, where's so-and-so? They're not online yet. So those things happen all the time. Monday night, I was at the state fair. I had an artist on stage, and I had 3 people have to change an interview while I was there waiting. So I'm sitting there working at one event while I'm doing other stuff. And it's not a 9-to-5 job, not a 9-to-5 job. It's an all day job. I mean, sometimes we're up till 2 a.m. Sometimes we're out on the road. If I go out with artists, then I'm working from however we're traveling, whether it's a bus or an airplane or a van. You don't know. So it's not an easy job. It sounds like it is, but it's not. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, but the rewards are huge. So, when you get an artist that you've worked so hard for, and then you land that big gig, that's this is why I'm here. This is what the ultimate goal is to help somebody reach their dreams and get that open slot on a big tour, or get an award that they've been wanting. Maybe that's what they want, that Grand Ole Opry spot. Whatever it is, when it happens, you forget about all the other stuff, and you're like, yep, this is what I came here for. I wanted to be part of this and help them get where they wanted to be. So
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
I bet that it really does feel great.
Yeah. If they want to intern with me and learn the ins and outs, I would be happy to let anybody come on board and help. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I actually have hired 3 of my interns in the past. They loved it. They're still here. So it's fun. When you can have somebody that does have that passion and they understand it and that's what they want to do, then that makes it fun. I have other ones that I said, no, you're not a good intern. I don't want you here no more.
So you hadn't hired all of them, right?
Yeah, no, I have not hired them. One of my interns left me. I hired him straight out. Well, he came to me through his college. He went to Belmont. I hired him while he was still an intern. He went from me straight to the Jimmy Fallon show in New York, and now he's Kelly Clarkson's person. So I figured I must have done a good job if he went from me to that. I must have taught him a lot. So makes me feel good. And he came to one of our shows a while back. We had an artist on the road, and he came over and he was telling everybody, goes, she's the reason I do what I do. So that makes you feel good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That does.
So it's not just the artists that I helped I helped an intern. So that was kind of cool. So, yeah.
Help this one other guy.
Yep. Yep.
So how has the industry changed? You said 31 years since you've started doing it. And you mentioned something about the analog to digital thing. How else other than that has it changed specifically in like your area in PR and the artist management kind of space?
A lot. So from the PR side, it used to be if we wanted interviews, if we wanted to get music reviews, everything had to be done through the mail, on the phone. So you were on the phone calling people. There was no email, and you had to send the music through the mail. It had to be a physical product. Now we can email an MP3 or a WAV file or send them to a streaming service. So those things alone have changed dramatically in my world. The number of outlets has changed. Like print magazines and newspapers are a lot less because everything is digital. So the digital world has increased. Doesn't mean the quality is there, but there's a lot more of them. So you have to really weed out which ones are good. We do a lot of homework usually before we pitch somebody. We'll go back and look and see how many followers do they have. Do they do a good interview? We watch some of their interviews. And is it worth it or not, and so that quality makes all the difference in the world. So
definitely
it's changed a lot. Absolutely it has. Yeah.
I did want to ask you, so you do work in publicity. Do you do some artist management kind of stuff too?
I do. Yeah, I've got 2 artists right now that I manage. Two completely different spectrums. One is a very seasoned artist. She's been around. She's 84. She's a Grand Ole Opry star, and we have a Sirius XM show. So I produce her show, and I help her with everything pretty much in her life and everything that she has to do that has to do with the industry. The other one's on the opposite end completely. It's a new artist that's up and coming, that's becoming established, and I do a lot for her because she can't afford a day-to-day manager, a production manager, a stage manager, a publicist, all the different things that she needs. So I wear a lot of hats for her. And, eventually some of those hats will come off me as she grows and can do those things, which I'll be happy because then I don't have to do all those. But right now, if we want to be successful, that's what you have to do. But it's a day-by-day thing, and as long as everybody knows that these are the things, as you grow and evolve, things will change. That's great. So I enjoy that as well. It's a nice break from the PR side of it. I love doing all of it. I like being busy, period, but I enjoy being a part of the live part of it as much as doing the back end of it. So
all right, so we're going to switch gears here a little bit. If you could attend any concert in history, which one would it be, and tell me why?
Oh boy, any concert in history. I've been to so many, my gosh. I've been very fortunate to be at a lot of really good ones. If I could go back and do like a Beatles concert, I think that'd be amazing to watch that. Because it's so different, and they weren't a flash in the pan, but they took off so fast, and they were so unique. So I think that'd be very cool to be able to go to something like that. In today's world, I've seen pretty much everybody in concert one way or another. So in one way, or a lot of them are the same, different artists, but kind of the same. And but Beatles stood out, so that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so if you downsized, you're a huge music fan. I'm sure you've had a record collection that you had to buy a tape collection, and then you had to buy CDs, and now all that is probably in the trash. But if you had to downsize to 3 albums, what would they be?
Oh boy. Number 1, Fleetwood Mac. I love Fleetwood Mac. That was like one of my first. Cher, I love Cher. So that would be one. And they're not country. You notice that they're not country. I should say yours, but
no, wouldn't that be nice? We'll just insert you saying that.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's so many great ones out there, but those were part of my youth. That's where I fell in love with the music. Funny story is when I was in high school, Exile was like #1 on the radio, Kiss You All Over and all of their songs. And that was one of my favorite songs. Well, I now represent Exile. So, things that influenced me back then, and now I get to work with them every day. That's crazy.
They're great guys too.
Yeah, but there's too many good ones. I don't know if I didn't want to think what I've sold at yard sales. I wish I had back. There's so many of them.
Right. So if you could work with any artist from the past, who would it be?
Somebody that's no longer with us?
Yeah, let's say that.
Somebody that's passed away. Probably Dottie West. Dottie didn't get to fully, she didn't. And just from the stories that I've heard about her, I know her granddaughter really well. She's one of Jeannie's best friends. I've heard lots of stories, and I think she would have been just a huge, huge, huge star, more than she was. So I think that would be cool.
So this is kind of the endish area. So before I close out and finish, is there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to cover?
I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot. You did a good job.
Well, we didn't cover childhood, but I didn't have that on my notes. Usually I go all the way back to Nebraska. Did you grow up in Nebraska?
I was born and raised in Iowa. And then when I got married, I lived in Nebraska. So I lived in Iowa.
We should have done this at the beginning.
19 years.
Let's start over.
I know. Let's start all over. I was in Iowa for 19 years and Nebraska 17 years before I moved anywhere. So, so I'm a country girl at heart. I grew up in the Midwest. So I think that's where I got my worth ethic. You grow up around farming communities, you have to be a hard worker.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for me growing up, I hear accents. I'm a sound person, obviously, so I hear your accent, and I think of me being as a country type person, and people who talk like you, I don't think of them that way. But when I turned into an adult, I traveled. There's country people everywhere, and regardless of what we talk, like in Northern California, there are more rednecks there than I think anywhere I've been. Yeah.
People tell me I have a northern
redneck,
accent,
but those people are.
Yeah, I can be. But yeah, I get that all the time. People tell me I have a northern accent. I don't hear it, but I also have not adopted the Nashville Southern accent either. So I am what I am. Yep.
Some people are just impervious to that accent thing.
I guess.
You just have what you have your whole life.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't like to hear myself on the radio. When I hear myself speak, I'm like, I don't sound like that. Yeah.
You got a great speaking voice, though. You should do more of that. You should go into radio.
Been there, done that. I like where I'm at. I got in trouble all the time when I was on radio because I put in the people I wanted to listen to. I always get people off the logs and put in the people that I wanted to listen to. I got into a lot of trouble for that. But I remember one time I had a fight with our PD about I put Jody Messina in when she just was starting out, and they're like, "You can't keep putting her on," and I'm like, but she's gonna be a huge star. I said her music's amazing, and I got for it, but it didn't stop me. I still put her in. So
yeah, that was good music. The early Jody Messina.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it really was.
Is it be noticed? Is that how you say it? I've
Be
never
noticed,
said it before.
Yeah, be
So there's
noticed.
an exclamation in there.
Yeah.
So you don't say be noticed or
no, just be noticed. Yeah. Because my name is
Okay.
Bev. Everybody's called me Grandma B or just B, hey B, how are you? I don't know. And so when I had to come up with a name, I thought I'm just going to incorporate that in there. And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I
And
like
be
it.
noticed. That's what a publicist wants. They want you to be noticed.
Exactly.
So it was a play on words and kind of meant something personal all at the
Mhm.
same time.
I like it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Bev at Be Noticed PR, and it's B exclamation noticed. The links are provided in the description below. Bev, thanks so much for being with us. It has been a pleasure.
You are very welcome. It's been fun. Thanks.
It has been fun.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Come and Pick It. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners like you. We've got a brand new episode of Come and Pick It next week and more amazing guests lined up for you down the road. Don't miss it. Until then, keep picking it.